This is the Buffett Mindset channel where we practice patience and calm wealth building daily. If you enjoy these types of videos, consider liking and subscribing. This will mean a lot to the channel. Every man dreams of victory, but only the few who force themselves into the mud of consistency find it. You can read every book, quote every success story, and still rot in the same place if you don't move. The difference between the man who becomes legend and the man who disappears is not knowledge, it's action. The world is full of thinkers who never build, full of planners who never begin. And the truth is, you don't need more time, you need more truth, because deep down, you already know what to do. You're just waiting to feel ready. But readiness is a myth. It's a trick your mind plays to keep you comfortable. The only cure for hesitation is movement. The only path to confidence is collision with failure, with fear, with the unknown. Every step you take while afraid is a strike against mediocrity. The men who built empires didn't wait for courage, they acted until courage caught up. They didn't wait to understand the terrain. They learned it by walking through it. That's what separates the greats. They force themselves to move. They don't wait for a sign, they decide to become one. You've got to stop negotiating with your weakness. Stop entertaining the inner voice that says, "Not today." That voice is not your ally, it's your leash. It talk you out of every breakthrough, every opportunity, every sunrise you could have owned. Every time you delay, you feed it. And the more you feed it, the hungrier it becomes. The man who cannot command himself will always serve someone who he. You were not born to obey fear, you were born to master it. The secret is not to remove the resistance, it's to act through it. The muscles of discipline are built the same way as the body, through repetition under pressure. Every morning you act despite resistance, you're lifting the weight of weakness. You are training the part of yourself that doesn't flinch. That's what makes you powerful. Not comfort, not certainty, but the ability to move through both chaos and clarity with the same conviction. You think you need motivation, but motivation is a mirage. It's emotion pretending to be truth. Motivation fades when it rains, when you're tired, when nobody claps. What remains then? Discipline. And discipline isn't a feeling, it's a decision repeated until it becomes identity. You will never feel your way into greatness. You must act your way into it. Each morning you rise, your mind will whisper excuses. It's too early. I'm not ready. I'll start tomorrow. You answer it not with thought, but with action. That's the rewiring process. You move first, think later. You stop waiting to feel powerful and start behaving powerfully, because emotion follows motion. Momentum is born from movement, not motivation. You start and suddenly clarity shows up. You act and suddenly belief appears. The world doesn't reward the man who waits for inspiration. It rewards the man who acts until he becomes unstoppable. The greatest illusion of modern life is that thinking about your goals is progress. It not. Thinking doesn't build. Planning doesn't build. Only execution transforms vision into value. You can study, strategize, and visualize forever, but if you never take the first imperfect step, you're still a spectator in your own story. The world is run by doers, not dreamers. Every fortune, every innovation, every breakthrough began with a single decision that ignored hesitation. Action beats perfection every time, because perfection is another disguise for fear. It's the ego way of staying safe while pretending to prepare. Stop worshiping preparation. You can adjust once you're in motion. The bed is never perfect, and at the point. The act of movement reveals the path. Life rewards velocity, not theory. Force yourself to begin, especially when you don't want to. That's the signal to move. The resistance means it matters. Your mind will scream that you're not ready, but the truth is, readiness only appears in hindsight. Every great man was unready when he began, but he started anyway. You must learn to trust that motion creates mastery. No one becomes confident before the act. They become confident because of the act. Start the business, learn the skill, make the call, wake up earlier, study longer, stop waiting for approval. There's no savior coming. The world belongs to those who dare to create before they're prepared. Once you move, the mind follows. Once you commit, life starts rearranging itself in your favor. That's the real law of attraction, action that attracts alignment. You've got to rake the curse of hesitation. Hesitation kills dreams quieter than failure or could. Failure at least moves you forward. It teaches, it refines, it toughens. Hesitation freezes you in time, gives you the illusion of safety while secretly stealing your momentum. And momentum is everything. The man who moves daily, even clumsily, outpaces the genius who thinks endlessly. The universe favors the man in motion because motion signals faith. Faith that the path will appear. Faith that the effort will matter. Faith that destiny respects the doer. Every small act compounds. Every repetition rewrites your future. Action repeated long enough becomes habit. Habit repeated long enough becomes identity. And identity determines destiny. That the chain of cause most never master. But you can start today. So heed the command. Force yourself to take one small step today. Not tomorrow, not next Monday, today. Write the email, make the call, lift the weight, finish the task. Stop saying I'll try and start saying I. Stop chasing motivation and start building momentum. You will not feel ready, and that's exactly why it counts. The man who acts only when he feels ready will die waiting. But the man who acts while unready will live creating. This is how you separate yourself from the masses. They wait for confidence. You act your way into it. They chase motivation. You manufacture it. They dream. You build, and in the end, the world belongs to builders. Remember that. The world has always belonged to the man who moves first, the man who builds while others talk, the man who decides while others deliberate. There are a certain kind of power that comes from motion, not because it guarantees success, but because it protects you from the herd of hesitation. You can always tell who will win because they're already moving when everyone else is still thinking about how to begin. Action doesn't just produce results, it reveals reality. It exposes what works, what doesn't, what needs to change. And that truth, uncomfortable and it may be, is the single greatest advantage you'll ever have. The thinker theorizes, the doer knows, because knowledge gained from movement is the only cane that sticks. You can't learn courage from a book. You can't learn discipline from a quote. You can only earn it by confronting resistance every single day until fear becomes your fuel. Most men waste their entire lives waiting for something external to change before they take action. They say, I'll start when I have more time. But time doesn't create discipline. Discipline creates time. They say, I'll begin when I feel motivated. But motivation doesn't create movement. Movement creates motivation. The law is simple. Motion precedes emotion. You act first, and your feelings fall. That's why you can't trust your emotions to guide your destiny. Emotions are fleeting. Action is eternal. The man who acts despite emotion forges a will that cannot be broken. He becomes the kind of man who gets things done while others are still debating if they should. He doesn't ask, how do I feel? He asks, what must I do? That shift in question is the beginning of power, because the truth is, life will never hand you the perfect conditions. Waiting for the right moment is just procrastination in disguise. There is no someday. There only now. And the man who masters now masters life. And let's tell the truth, achievement isn't about talent. It's about tolerance. Your tolerance for discomfort, boredom, repetition, and uncertainty. The dreamers quit when the fire fades. The disciplined keep work through the ashes. That's why discipline feels like pain at first, at the breaking of an old identity. You've been conditioned to seek comfort, to avoid struggle, to equate peace with ease. But true peace comes from progress, and progress demands pressure. The same pressure that turns coal into diamonds, the same grind that forges steel. You were built for this. Your mind was designed to adapt. Your body was designed to endure. You are not fragile. You've simply forgotten your nature. Every great man remembers it the moment he stops seeking the easy way and starts demanding the right way. There's something sacred about doing what you said you would do, especially when you no longer feel like it. That integrity in motion, that self-respect earned through consistency. You see, each time you act in alignment with your goals, you're sending a message to your subconscious, I can be trusted, and that trust compounds. It turns into confidence. It turns into command. But every time you break your word to yourself, you lose a piece of that power. That's why discipline isn't punishment, it's proof. Proof that your words still mean something. Proof that you're not the kind of man who folds when the feeling fades. Proof that you've chosen mastery over mood. The man who forces himself to act, even when uninspired, becomes a law unto himself. He's not controlled by circumstance, he controls the circumstance. You must learn to build when it's boring. Anyone can act when it's exciting. The test of mastery begins when the excitement dies. That's when you find out whether you're truly committed or just curious. Because real growth happens in repetition. The mundane, unglamorous, unseen hours with nobody watching that what greatness is built. Buffett didn't get rich through flashes of brilliance. He got rich by doing the same thing exceptionally well for decades. That's the secret no one wants to hear. The extraordinary is built on the back of the ordinary, done relentlessly. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent enough for time to multiply your effort. That's the compound effect, not that of money, but of mastery. Each small act compounds into confidence. Each disciplined day compounds into destiny. And let's talk about failure, because it's the best teacher you'll meet. Failure isn't the opposite of success. The fortress success is shaped. Every time you fall short, the universe is refining your edge. You cannot learn precision without missing the mark. You cannot learn patience without delay. You cannot learn resilience without pain. Failure reveals where you're weak so you can rebuild stronger. The only men who truly fail are those who never begin, because they deny themselves the data life gives through defeat. You can fail 1,000 times and still win if you learn. You can stumble every day and still succeed if you persist. But hesitate once too long, an opportunity passes like a ghost in the fog. You won't even know it was there until it's gone. That's why you must move. Not perfectly, not confidently, just move. At some point, you'll realize discipline isn't about force anymore, it's about flow. When you push long enough, when you build systems around your goals, when you act so often that motion becomes natural, it stops being effort, it becomes identity. That when success feels effortless, not because it's easy, but because it's habitual. The man who once had to force himself to rise early now does it automatically. The man who once battled laziness now finds comfort in creation. The same mind that resisted change now craves it. That the transformation discipline brings, what once felt like struggle, now feels like freedom. You've rewired yourself. You've become the kind of man others look at and say, he built temp. But you'll know the truth. You weren't born different. You built temp. You will know you've won when you stop waiting for things to get easier and start demanding more from yourself, when the obstacles excite you, when the pressure focuses you, when you no longer need someone to tell you what to do, because you already know that when the world begins to open its doors, not because it suddenly believes in you, but because you finally believe in yourself. Force yourself to act, and soon you'll never need to force again. You'll just do. You'll just move. And life will bend around your momentum, make a river around a rock. There's a quiet law in this world that most men never learn until it's too late, the law of forced motion. You either force yourself to move or the world will force you to stay behind. There is no middle ground. You see, life is not waiting for you to get ready, it's already in progress. Every sunrise that comes and goes without you acting on your potential is a chapter written by hesitation. You don't lose years all at once. You lose them one, maybe tomorrow at a time. One small delay becomes habit, and habit becomes identity. Before long, the man who once dreamed of greatness becomes a spectator in his own story. That's how mediocrity is born, not through defeat, but through delay. The truth is brutal, but it'd free you if you let it. The man who forces himself to act will always outgrow the one who waits for inspiration. Every great life begins with force, not the kind of force that breaks things, but the kind that bends reality. You must push yourself into motion before you believe you're capable, because belief does not precede action, it's forged by it. Most people have this backward. They think they need to feel confident before they take the first step. But confidence is built by repetition. You act first, and your brain rewires itself to trust that action. That's how mastery begins. Look at every great entrepreneur, athlete, or builder. They didn't wait for proof that they could succeed. They created proof through persistence. You are no different. The potential in you is locked behind resistance, and the only key that fits is movement. There will be mornings when you don't want to rise. evenings when your war feels dry, that the moment your destiny is decided. Because anyone can act when they feel strong, but the men who rule their world act when they feel nothing at act. You must learn to operate without the permission of mood. The world doesn't reward the emotional, it rewards the consistent. Discipline is not about feeling alive every day, it's about staying alive long enough to feel the results. It's about coing up when your mind whispers weakness and your body pleads for comfort. Every time you show up anyway, you are teaching your soul something sacred, that you can rely on yourself, that you are not a prisoner of feeling, but a commander of it. That power most people will never taste. And understand this, your goals will not chase you back. They are not waiting with open arms. They are guarded by discomfort, by uncertainty, by delay. They sit at the top of a hill that only the disciplined will climb. If you hesitate, the hill gets steeper. If you delay, the weight gets heavier. You must climb when the voice inside says not now. You must build when it's inconvenient, because every act of resistance you conquer today makes tomorrow victory easier. Action compounds just like interest. One small effort repeated daily becomes unstoppable momentum. It's not the massive action once in a while that transforms a man. It's the relentless, boring consistency of small steps that nobody sees. That's how you separate yourself from the crowd, by acting when it's no longer exciting. You see, comfort is the true thief of greatness. Most men end their future for comfort. They want the success but reject the struggle that builds it. They want the reward but refuse the repetition that earns it. They want the crown but won't lift the sword. But the truth is, there is no comfort at the top. Every mountain peak is earned through friction, failure, and force. You must train your mind to love the grind, to crave the repetition that others avoid. Because once you do, the struggle stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like purpose. The pain that once made you hesitate becomes the fuel that keeps you moving. That when you become dangerous not to others, but to your old self. The version of you that wasted time, that needed approval, that flinched at resistance. That man dies the moment you move without asking permission. It's fun. The mind will always tell you that acting later is safer, but there is no safety in stagnation. Still water rots. Still dreams decay. You must create pressure in your own life before the world does it for you. Pressure is not your enemy. It's your reminder that you are alive. Without it, there's no focus. Without it, there's no urgency. Without it, nothing grows. You have to become the kind of man who welcomes pressure, who invites it because he knows it's the thing that keeps him sharp. Diamonds aren't made by wishing, they're made by force. You can't think your way into greatness. You grind your way there. You fall, you rise, you repeat. And soon, repetition turns into rhythm. Discipline turns into desire. And you stop forcing yourself because it's simply who you are now. There will come a time when people around you start to notice. They'll ask, how do you stay so consistent? How do you always get things done? And you'll smile because they won't understand that consistency was not a gift. It was forged in the fire of force. You built it in silence. You forced yourself when nobody cared, when nobody clapped, when nobody made it. And that's why they see results and call them luck, because they didn't see the discipline. They didn't see the nights when you worked through exhaustion, the mornings when you chose grind over comfort, the moments when you felt fear but moved anyway. You forced yourself, and that force became freedom. That the irony, freedom doesn't come from ease, it comes from effort. The man who avoids discomfort remains a slave to it. The man who runs toward it becomes unshakable. Force yourself now while it's hard. Because one day, it won't be hard, it'll be habit. You won't need to fight for momentum, it'll fight for you. You won't need to push yourself. The current you created will carry you forward. That's what happens when discipline compounds. You become a man who does what he says he will, every time. You don't rake promises to yourself, you don't hesitate, you don't negotiate with weakness. You've become the kind of man who acts, and that success is action, repeated long enough to become destiny. You've got to understand something about chasing goals. It's not about fireworks, it's about friction. The friction between who you are and who you're becoming. The friction between comfort and calling. You'll never glide into greatness, you'll grind into it. Every step forward will feel like resistance, and that's how you'll know you're on the right path. The universe doesn't hand you results, it hands you resistance. but resistance is the proof that you're moving in the right direction. It's not the easy road that forges strong men, yet the one paved with uncertainty, failure, and fatigue. Every successful person you admire carries the scars of pressure. They learned to love the strain because they knew one truth: the pain of progress is temporary, but the pain of regret lasts forever. You will not remember the nights you rested. You remember the nights you persisted. Hear a secret most people never tell you. Success is quiet. It doesn't shout whispers through repetition. It's not built in grand gestures, but in the small daily acts you force yourself to do when no one watching. The man who hits the gym at dawn, not because he wants to, but because he promised himself he would. The woman who keeps writing even when the words won't come. The builder who keeps laying bricks while others talk about blueprints. These are the architects of destiny. Consistency is the weapon of the uncommon, because the truth is you'll rarely feel ready, you'll rarely feel strong, and you'll almost never feel like doing the hard thing. But discipline doesn't ask how you feel, it asks who you want to become. Every time you act despite resistance, you cast a vote for the man or woman you want to be. Every repetition is a declaration that you are not your feelings, you are your actions. And if you truly want to achieve something extraordinary, you must kill the myth of balance. Balance is for men who play not to lose. Obsession is for men who win. The world wants you to be reasonable, patient, steady, but reason builds mediocrity, not mastery. The men who rewrote history were the ones who went end. They sacrificed distraction for direction, comfort for conquest. They didn't sprinkle effort, they poured gasoline on the fire of their goals, because every divided hour is a diluted future. The secret of force is focus. When you force yourself to narrow your attention on one mission, everything else begins to align. The distractions fade, the noise dies down, and your life begins to sharpen into something deliberate. A life without focus is a life without force. You cannot hit a target you refuse to aim at. You might think that discipline means chaining yourself to your work, but that's not that. Discipline is freedom disguised as effort. When you force yourself to do what's necessary, you free yourself from chaos. When you wake early, when you eat clean, when you A your day, you're not restricting your life, you're reclaiming it. You're building structure so you can build strength. You're replacing chance with choice. That's what Warren Buffett meant when he said the chains of habit are too light to be felt until they are too heavy to be broken. You're building those chains right now. Every decision adds a link. The question is, are they the chains of discipline or the chains of decay? Every small act compounds in one direction or the other. That's why you must force yourself to act today. Not because today is special, but because tomorrow depends on it. The mind will tell you it's tired, that it's not the right time, that you've done enough for now, but you must learn to see through that voice. That voice is not you, it's your comfort begging for survival. Every man has that voice inside him, whispering reasons to stop, but the rare few who rise are the ones who answer it with action. When that voice says rest, they move. When it says wait, they begin. That's how power is built, not in grand moments, but in the micro decisions that happen every hour of every day. Because ere the truth, life rewards the man who moved first. You cannot think your way into a new life. You can only act your way into one. Every movement you make toward your goal, no matter how small, is a signal to your subconscious that you are changing. It adapts to what you repeat. You are programming yourself every moment. You are either installing courage or coding hesitation. You have to stop mistaking overthinking for preparation. Overthinking is the graveyard where dreams go to die. The more you analyze, the heavier the action becomes. Motion is the antidote. The moment you move, even imperfectly, clarity appears. It's not that clarity precedes action, it's that action produces clarity. Most men that die still planning, still preparing, still waiting for perfect. But the perfect moment doesn't exist. The men who build legacies know this. They pull the trigger while others polish their aim. They learn in motion. They correct that they go. They fail forward until failure loses its grip. You must decide what kind of man you will be. The one who moves or the one who muses. Because the clock is ticking, and the longer you delay, the quieter your potential becomes. One day, You'll wake up and realize the opportunity you wanted didn't disappear. You did. Force yourself to remember this. You are not chasing your goals are chasing your identity. You must become the kind of parent who deserves what you desire. That means your habits, your standards, and your decisions must rise to match your vision. You cannot wish for greatness with the same routines that built mediocrity. Every goal demands a higher version of you, and that version can only be built through force, the daily, deliberate repetition of new behaviors until they become instinct. Force creates momentum. Momentum builds identity. Identity creates inevitability. That's the real secret, not luck, not timing, not talent, but inevitability born from relentless action. You don't achieve your goals by chance. You earn them by force. There will come a point when the excuses begin to sound too familiar, when the comfort you once defended begins to taste like poison, and you'll feel that pull, that whisper inside saying, "It's time." That moment is sacred, because it's the final warning before your potential begins to decay. The world is full of men who ignored that whisper, who promised themselves they'd start after the weekend, after the promotion, after the fear faded. But the truth is, fear never fades, it just grows roots. Every time you choose comfort over progress, you reinforce weakness. Every time you tell yourself tomorrow, you are teaching your soul to settle. The man who forces himself to move, even when terrified, breaks that pattern. Proves to his mind that fear is not fatal, it's fuel. Fear only controls the men who mistake it for a stop sign instead of a signal. The difference between the man who wins and the man who wonders is simple. One acts through fear, the other freezes in it. If you want to achieve anything that matters, you have to stop negotiating with yourself. Stop sitting at the table with your excuses and trying to reason with them. You cannot reason with weakness. You must overrule it. Weakness doesn't understand logic. It responds to command. You tell it what to do, and you do not debate it. Every time you make a decision and immediately act on it, you're reclaiming authority over your life. You're rewiring your brain to trust your own word. That the real reason most people fail, not because they can't, but because their mind doesn't believe them anymore. They've broken too many promises to themselves. You cannot lead others until you lead your own impulses. You cannot trust your destiny to a man whose word means nothing, even if that man is you. The road to greatness is not paved with inspiration, it's built with integrity. Discipline is not a gift you're born with, a muscle built from friction. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Look at the part most people miss. Discipline doesn't give you results, it gives you peace. Because when you finally learn to keep promises to yourself, your mind quiets. The noise of doubt disappears. You stop second guessing, stop hesitating, stop living in mental chaos. You start to feel a calm power, a deep confidence that comes from knowing that no matter what happens, you show up. That the kind of peace the undisciplined will never know, because their peace depends on conditions. Yours will depend on command. You won't need perfect weather, perfect timing, or perfect energy. You'll act because it's who you are. That freedom to longer be at the mercy of how you feel, but in control of how you move. And don't mistake temporary fatigue for failure. The path to achievement is not a straight line, it's a battlefield. You will get tired, you will question yourself, and you will fail more times than you can count. But the man who keeps going after failure doesn't get stronger. He gets unstoppable. Failure stops being a threat, but it no longer defines him. It becomes a tool, a teacher, a test. Every time you rise from it, you increase your capacity for pressure. And the man who can handle more pressure than others will always rise higher than others. Life doesn't reward the most talented, it rewards the most tolerant. Tolerance for pressure, for pain, for uncertainty. The moment you understand that struggle isn't punishment, it's preparation. You begin to crave it, because you'll know that every hard day is adding weight to the bar of your character, and you're getting stronger with every lift. You've got to stop thinking that one massive effort will change everything. It's not the grand acts that transform a life. It's the microscopic habits that compound in silence. 1,000 small victories create one big breakthrough. It's brushing your teeth of the mind, the daily discipline of doing what others overlook. You build yourself in the repetition. That's why you must stop chasing motivation, make it a miracle drug. Motivation is emotional caffeine. Discipline is lifelong fuel. The men who depend on feeling inspired will always be slaves to it. The men who act without it eventually own everything they touch. You don't have to love the process. You just have to respect it enough to show up for it. Because even when you don't love, it's still working for you. There will be days when it feels pointless, when you put in the work and see no results. That when most people quit, but at the very moment the foundation is being laid beneath the surface, the seed breaks in the dark before it reaches the light. You must have the patience to trust that process. The universe will test you, not to punish you, but to prove you. It wants to see if you'll keep your promise when nothing seems to be happening. If you do, if you persist through that silence, that's when the breakthrough comes. The harvest is always hidden until the final moment. That's why consistency beats intensity. A man who works for 1 hour every day will surpass the one who works for 10 hours once a month, because life rewards rhythm, not randomness. If you feel yourself slipping, remind yourself why you started. Not the surface reason, not for the applause, the money, or the validation, but the deep one, the one that kept you up at night when you first dared to dream. That's your anchor. When doubt floods, go back to that. You're not doing this because it's easy. You're doing it because you refuse to die wondering what could have been. That fire, that hunger, that defiance, that's your birthright. Protect it. Feed it. Let it burn away every excuse until all that left is motion. Because when all else fails, talent, luck, timing, motion remains. The man who keeps moving can never truly lose. He just runs out of versions of himself that don't work. And when all those versions are gone, only mastery remains. So if you're hearing this, take it as a sign, not from fate, not from chance, but from the part of you that's still alive beneath the hesitation. The part that knows you're meant for more. The part that's tired of waiting for someday. This is your moment, not tomorrow, not next week, now. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait to be certain. Just move. The road will reveal itself with every step you take, and someday soon you'll look back and realize that forcing yourself was never punishment. It was the greatest act of love you gave your future. Every time you act despite doubt, you're proving to the universe that you are worthy of progress. The world bends for the man who moves with conviction. It does not move for the hesitant, the timid, or the ones who talk in circles waiting for a perfect wind to guide them. The truth is, there is no wind. You must create it. You must become the force that propels your own ship. Every decision you make, every step you take toward your goals builds momentum, and momentum is divine. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't check the forecast. It doesn't care who approves. Once you have it, even the storms that come against you end up working in your favor. Because momentum transforms resistance into rhythm. It no longer, how do I keep going? It becomes, I can't imagine stopping. But you earn that feeling through force, through pushing past the point where most people quit, through commanding your body and mind to keep going when comfort begs you to stop. There's a moment in every man's journey when he realizes that the world isn't against him. It's indifferent. It doesn't care if he succeeds or fails. It doesn't reward intentions. It only rewards execution. The universe isn't biased towards the good or the bad. It's biased towards the bold. The man who moves wins, and the man who hesitates fades. That formula, every day you're given a choice. Do you act or do you delay? Every small act compounds into identity. The man who delays becomes the man who doubts. The man who acts becomes the man who achieves. Every today is a vote for mediocre. Every let go is a step toward mastery. You're not just building goals. You're building a reputation with yourself. You're proving moment by moment that your word means something. And when your word has weight, the world listens. Force is misunderstood by the weak. They think it means aggression. It doesn't. True force is focus. It's doing what matters with absolute clarity. It's cutting through the noise. It's saying no to the distractions that seduce most men. When you force yourself to act, you're not being violent, you're being deliberate. You're choosing purpose over passivity. The world will always tempt you with detour. Comfort disguised as progress. Distraction disguised as importance. But the man who knows his mission cannot be lured away. His attention is his currency, and he spends it wisely. You must protect your focus the way a lion protects its territory. Every time you give it away to a trivial thought, a meaningless argument, or a fleeting pleasure, you weaken your empire. Force yourself to choose your inputs as carefully as your actions, because what enters your mind eventually becomes your motion. Garbage in, paralysis out. Power in, purpose out. The secret no one tells you is that most people stop one step before the breakthrough. They quit at 99%. They give up right before their consistency compounds into results. You can't be one of them. You must outlast your hesitation. You must outlive your excuses. When it feels like nothing is working, that's usually the moment right before it does. Life tests you by withholding reward, not to punish you, but to see if you deserve it. If you only act when it's easy, you'll never see the real payoff. But if you move when it's hard, when it's dark, when there's no applause, that's when you become unstoppable. Because every trial burns away weakness. Every test sharpens resolve. Every delay refines your discipline. Success is not about speed, it's about stamina. The man who simply refuses to stop eventually becomes inevitable. And then something else. Stop expecting to feel motivated when you wake up. Motivation is seasonal. It comes and goes like weather. What you need is command. Command over your morning, your mind, your movement. Before you check your phone, before you listen to anyone else's voice, you must give yourself orders. Direct your day before the world directs it for you. You don't need to feel like it, you need to act like it. That's how kings are built, through repetition of command. The small act of forcing yourself out of bed, of training when you'd rather rest, of working on your goals while others scroll, these moments compound into something sacred. They form a backbone of character that'll carry you through storms. And once you have that, once you know how to move without needing a reason, you become unbreakable. The truth is, no one is going to hand you permission to rise. No one will invite you to the top. You have to take that step yourself. You have to be willing to look foolish at first, to stumble in front of others, to learn through failure. Because failure is not the opposite of success. It's the process of success. Every failure moves you forward. Every scar becomes a story that proves you kept going. People will mock you, doubt you, try to pull you back into comfort, because your growth reminds them of their stagnation. But let them talk. While they whisper, you build. While they wait, you act. While they dream, you execute. Because when it all said and done, the world doesn't remember intentions. It remembers results. So hail your command. Choose one thing, one goal, one project, one mission, and commit to it if your life depends on it. No more juggling, no more excuses, no more waiting for the right moment. You decide what matters, and then you give it everything. Burn the bridge behind you. Remove the escape routes. Make success your own option. Because when you force yourself into a corner, your potential finally shows its teeth. You'll be amazed at what you can do when you give yourself no other choice but forward. The mind expands under pressure. The spirit ignites in crisis. That's how legends are made, not through comfort, but through constraint. You've spent enough time dreaming, it's time to act. The world doesn't owe you anything, but it'll yield to your persistence. It will bend for your conviction. It will open for your movement. So move. Even if it's small, even if it's messy, just move. Force yourself to start, and the path will reveal itself one step at a time. That the truth the greats live by, not luck, not talent, not timing, just the relentless decision to never stop moving. So stand up, take a breath, and step forward. The man you're meant to be is waiting at the end of action. You will discover, if you stay the course long enough, that the battle to achieve is not fought against the world, it fought against your own comfort. The world can delay you, distract you, even doubt you, but old comfort can disarm you. Comfort kills more dreams than failure, but good. It's subtle, patient, whispering in your ear you've done enough, when in truth you've barely begun. You will never break free from mediocrity until you stop negotiating with that voice. Comfort will trade you short-term ease for long-term emptiness, and if you listen long enough, you'll end up living a life that feels safe but not alive. Force yourself to move even when it's inconvenient, especially when it's inconvenient, because that's when the average man stops, and that need your separation begins. You see, achieving goals isn't about talent. It's not about intelligence. It's about aggression, not against others, but against your own apathy. The hunger to act when you'd rather rest. The ability to move forward when no one's watching. You must become a storm in a still world, a man whose momentum terrifies his own doubt. The more you act, the less room fear has to breathe. Most people lose not because they lack ability, but because they hesitate long enough for fear to grow stronger than their desire. Action shrinks fear. Delay feeds. The cure for overthinking is not more thinking, it's motion. You've got to force yourself into discomfort until it becomes your normal, until the hard things that once scared you become the rituals that define you. Every goal demands a cost, and you're paying it whether you relay it or not. The price of discipline is discomfort today. The price of regret is suffering forever. You get to choose which one you'll pay, but you don't get to avoid the debt. If you avoid effort, it'll return empty, nothingness. Every skipped action compounds into weakness. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you chip away at your own confidence. That's why most men can't lead. They can't even trust themselves. They speak words their body won't follow. Their mind knows they're lying, and that doubt becomes permanent. But the man who forces himself to act, who honors his word even when no one looking, builds a kind of internal credit, a reputation with his own soul, that what true self-belief is, not affirming, but evidence, proof that when you say you'll do something, you do it. And when that belief takes root, your goals stop being distant dreams. They become inevitable. The universe begins to respond to your certainty. Because here's the law, life doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you demand. And demands are made through consistent action, through force. You cannot politely request transformation. You must command. Command through sacrifice, through repetition, through the kind of movement that makes other people uncomfortable. You have to be willing to look obsessed, to look unbalanced, to look unreasonable. Because the ones who mock you now will one day study you. But only if you keep moving. When you decide on a goal, you must make it law. Write it down. Read it every day. Speak it aloud until it becomes part of your DNA. A goal that isn't written is just a wish. A wish belongs to chance. A written goal belongs to command. Warren Buffett didn't build an empire through luck. He built it through consistency, through the repetition of principles so simple most people ignore them. He knew that focus is the rarest currency in a distracted world. Forced himself to master boredom, to do the same thing well over and over while others chased excitement. That's what achievement looks like. It's not glamorous, it's quiet, it's repetitive, it's deliberate, it's doing what must be done long after the mood has left. Force is not violence. Force is clarity applied with persistence. It's when you no longer need a reason to act, you act cause it's your nature. It's the moment your goals stop being something you chase and start being something you express. You are not forcing yourself to do something unnatural. You are forcing yourself to remember who you are, a create, not a spectator. You were never meant to spend your life reacting to circumstances. You were meant to create them. The reason you feel stuck, the reason you feel lost is not because the world is against you. It's because you've gone too long without obeying that creative instinct inside you. Action is not just a means to an end. It's the proof that you're alive. But did the cruel trick of life. If you don't choose your pain, life will choose it for you. If you don't force yourself to move, life will force you to regret. If you don't build your discipline, life will build your desperation. Every day you spend waiting for motivation, you are surrendering to entropy, the natural decay of your potential. It's happening whether you notice it or not. But if you act, if you move, if you force yourself through resistance, you reverse the decay. You start building momentum. You start building strength. You start becoming unstoppable. The man who acts today becomes the man others envy tomorrow. The truth is, success is not found in big leaps. It's hidden in the decision to take one more step, to send one more email, to take one more call, to wake up 1 hour earlier, to do what you said you would do even when no one else is holding you accountable. That's how you win, inch by inch, step by step, brick by brick, until one day you look around and realize you've become the very thing you once admired, and the world which once ignored you now can't look away. So stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for the perfect pay. Stop waiting for life to choose you. Choose yourself. Move, act, build. Every second you hesitate, the dream decays. Every second you move, the dream breathes. This is the law of momentum, the law of mastery, the law of force. And those who understand it don't wait for permission. They create inevitability.